Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel Career Success Guide CSG. My name is Jaya, I'm a career coach. Today we will do part 3 of Meet and Connect with the Pros. We have a special guest. His name is Sidharth Iyer, people call him Sid. He's based in Ontario and he is the head of SEO at Resulta. Let's get to know him a little bit more. So hi Sid, can you tell me about your immigration story?
Yeah, sure. Firstly, thanks for bringing me on, Jaya. And I'm happy to share my immigration story. So, yeah, I moved to Toronto in September of 2017. And it was probably just another immigration story that you hear from everyone. The only thing that was probably different was in terms of how I went about the journey, as well as probably what triggered me to look at immigration as an option. So, of course, I come from India. Specifically, I was in Mumbai for most of my adult life, but I belong to a small town in the eastern part of India, which is Jamshedpur. So I did my schooling there and stuff. But yeah, I mean, what kind of inspired me to actually look at immigration as an option was specifically with regard to my journey to Montreal, and that was in June of 2016 when I had gone there for animation and visual effects conference called Effects. And at that point in time, I was with Red Chillies, which is the post-production arm of Shah Rukh's film production company, Red Chillies. And yeah, I mean, that trip kind of really inspired me in terms of the amazing work culture that I saw out here, as well as in terms of how people were very friendly, very warm, and of course, like beautiful scenic places to see and visit, and even like the architecture was so amazing. So yeah, overall it was an amazing trip, and I've been fortunate enough to kind of make a lot of professional visits to lot of different places within Southeast Asia, Europe, and I mean closer by in India as well. But this was probably like my first trip to North America, and also one which was so memorable that it kind of inspired me to explore immigration. And the immigration itself was pretty smooth. I think it took about 6 to 8 months to get everything in process. And fortunately, I was lucky enough to actually move here with a job in hand. So yeah, that's probably another good topic to get into, I would imagine.
Of course.
Yeah, so I mean, yeah, probably you know that I'm pretty active on LinkedIn, and the only kind of avenue that I could think of in terms of probably tapping some of my network as well as contacts who were in North America was through LinkedIn. So I just sent out like messages and feelers in terms of understanding how are things out here, what do people look for in terms of potential employees and stuff like that. And of course, like as I had my visa and everything processed and closer to the date of moving, that is when I had like sent out more kind of warmer feelers in terms of, hey, I'm probably soon going to be immigrating as a permanent resident to Canada, and this is the area of expertise that I have. And of course, like since we've been working together on maybe like older accounts or older kind of projects together, and probably if you know of someone or if you have any opportunities in your own kind of organization, would be keen to explore and speak to people. And that's how one of the opportunities actually clicked with AMD, and that was my first role in Canada as well. So, and yeah, it was fun in terms of just having that what do you say, a safety net in a way, where I was aware that okay, I probably wouldn't have to face the initial kind of adjustment struggles that a lot of my peers and also like acquaintances have faced. And that was probably a blessing in disguise. And as well as I mean, yeah, very grateful for having the right people to kind of connect with and kind of get some idea about moving as well. And so that's how my professional journey also began. So I started off in product marketing with AMD on a contract role, and then soon moved on to doing another contract in content marketing, and then kind of found my niche in SEO. And that's where I've been growing in terms of the past 4 years. So yeah, I mean, that's more on the professional side. And I mean, yeah, just speaking of LinkedIn again. So yeah, I mean, LinkedIn is probably the only platform that I use, even for job search, even for like making friends professionally, as well as staying connected with people. And that's also one of the reasons why we are on this call today, because LinkedIn is the reason that we got connected as well. And I mean, yeah, it's great to kind of meet and interact with like-minded people, and just learn from their experiences, share a bit of my journey, and then just kind of grow together in that regard. And so yeah, I mean, I'm a big patron for LinkedIn in that manner. All my job opportunities have been through LinkedIn. Even the current role that I am in, it was more of someone actually seeking out for someone with the expertise to come in and take on this role. So without LinkedIn, that wouldn't have been possible in terms of actually scouring for talent in the marketplace. And yeah, I would say that's my kind of brief stint so far in terms of how I moved to Canada, and also in terms of the job journey.
Yeah, very interesting story. I think you are one of those fortunate people to have a job on hand and then move. Like I moved in 2017, and it was a struggle. Like initially it was really, really kind of tough, and we applied for like 100 jobs and with no callbacks. It was kind of a real mess, but then eventually you get into something and you make your way up, right? So that's how most of the people would go, but you are really fortunate. And I think LinkedIn really helped you. LinkedIn is like your go-to place. I could see that you're really active. Almost every day you would post something. You really engage with other people's content. And I think that's a great way to connect and to kind of explore more.
Yeah, I mean, and I know like a lot of people feel it becomes a little daunting to kind of think of topics to post about on a daily basis. So that's also something that I don't do a lot in terms of posting daily. But what I do is like read a lot of content that I see in my feed, and of course interact with it in a way of either liking it or probably commenting with my kind of stance on that topic or that discussion point. And that really kind of helps build the brand equity for you as well, in terms of people recognizing, okay, this is a voice that probably we need to hear and we need to kind of recognize in this space. And that's how you kind of also build traction for your profile. So I would say that's a good way to kind of start off, even if you don't have like specific topics that you want to post about on a let's say a daily cadence, or even like a weekly cadence. What you can do is definitely engage with posts in the area of your interests, and doesn't necessarily have to be in the profession that you work in, but it could be something that is very close to you. So if you are very kind of passionate about doing social work, or if you're passionate about finance, and you may be not in finance, or you may not be a social worker, you can still interact with those topics and share your voice, and that way you are still making an impact and like building some influence. So
I think that's personal branding.
True. Yeah.
Great. Okay, so what would be your advice to other people, like immigrants like us that are trying to move to Canada? What is the labor market like, and what is your advice for them?
Yeah, I would say that definitely the key to success here is adaptability, patience, and persistence. So APP, that's what I go with.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and it's just about knowing what is your kind of strong facets. So it could be not just in terms of professional skill sets, it could be more in terms of soft skills as well, which you can actually kind of bring to the table as a differentiator. Because what sometimes people also kind of get daunted or get kind of not too encouraged by is like facing the question about Canadian experience. So I would imagine like that's looked at in a very wrong light. What I would say is, I mean, imagine if somebody is moving to India from anywhere in the world and they are looking for a job in the Indian market. Like they too have to learn and adapt and understand things before actually getting to a place where probably they moved from. So what you really need to look at when you get faced by that question is how are you actually utilizing your time after you have moved here. So, and that is why I encourage a lot of people who reach out to actually look for like volunteering roles, because that helps you in terms of actually not just understand like how things work here, but at the same point in time also like meet and interact with people who have been in the kind of industry for long and gain from their experience. And at the same point in time, you might have the opportunity to actually meet a potential employer as well while like exploring such opportunities. And apart from that, I mean, yeah, it's also about how well you kind of get ingrained into like the system and processes out here. And that's probably what is all the kind of understanding and question or the intent that when potential employers ask about not having Canadian experience, this is something that you can actually do to prove that you are wanting to bring kind of a positive influence into the organization that you are applying for. So that's one thing that I can think of. And the other thing is, of course, like if you want to be kind of employable, you need to also look at ways where you can upskill and ensure that you are relevant for the role that you are applying for as well, because that's another thing that I see a lot of new immigrants end up doing. Like they apply for nearly all the roles that are available or that they see in their feed, which probably is not a very great strategy, because what you're doing is you're only like setting up for failure in a way, because you aren't going in with a focused kind of approach and intent in terms of what is the industry that you want to work in, what are probably like the top 5 or top 10 kind of companies that you work for. And then also in terms of, you always need to understand that it's always going to be a dialogue and not a kind of monologue approach, and it's always going to be give and take. So as much as you want to be employed, even the employer is looking for someone who is going to add value to their team, their company, and going forward probably even take on a leadership role. So you need to always evaluate these factors as well, and not just think of like, okay, I need a job tomorrow, because yes, I mean, you do need to have an employment, but that is the reason why like even the government advises you to come in with some funds to kind of support you for the initial period. And that is the intent, because everybody is aware that you need to spend some time and figure out things first before being able to contribute back into the kind of market or the industry that you want to kind of work and prosper in. And that's the reason why you need to be that much more kind of strategic in how you approach the job market, as well as what is the kind of roles that you want to do. Because, and yeah, I mean, there would certainly be a few things that you need to be flexible with. Like if you are coming from a very senior leadership role, probably you might not end up getting into the same role out here. And that's also, I would say, understandable, because you're coming into a new market altogether. You don't have the necessary understandings of probably not just how things work, but also how people work here. And for that, you need to kind of, again, gain that Canadian experience that we speak about, and like just learn to kind of grow and adapt. Because out here, it's very easy to kind of actually move up the ladder once you have like the right approach and the right kind of mindset towards what you're going towards. And that's probably the secondary thing that you should think of, whether oh, I'm like having to take probably a 2 title demotion in a way. But what I would imagine is it's basically just taking a couple of steps back before like going into your launch mode. So yeah, I mean, it's just about perceptions and also in terms of point of views, in terms of how you approach things. As long as you have like the goal in mind and you make progress versus like always look for perfection, that's what sets probably the two cohorts apart, like those who have like a fixed mindset and those who have like a growth mindset. And this is like a separate conversation that I can go into as well.
But I really like the conversation about the growth mindset, and it matters the most. And it's not only about Canada, it's about anywhere you go. If you don't have that, you're not going to survive. You're not going to get the place that you want to go. But I really like the way you said about upskilling and also about understanding the work culture. I have had an opportunity to speak with HR professionals here in Canada. When they interview immigrants, they are not sure whether they will understand the culture, whether they will understand the process of the way things work. So that's one of the main concerns. They are skeptical while they are hiring immigrants. So getting some volunteering experience or, starting up somewhere, probably that's a demotion. That's okay. Try and understand the Canadian work culture. Try and understand the way they do things, the way they think. And I think that will really help a lot. And also the soft skills, the way people interact with one another, the interpersonal skills, right? People always like small talk here. They're not straight away getting into business. They have that, the style of getting into business slowly, getting to know person first. So from a different part of the world, it might not be the way they are doing things differently. So it's always a good idea to start somewhere, take a demotion or take a pay cut maybe, but still get something so that you can make your way up. I've seen people that start as receptionist, maybe in 2 years, 3 years, becoming VP. That's possible here. So Canada is definitely land of dreamers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great. Okay, so I understand that you have a great credit score. I have read your articles about your credit score and how you built up that in such a short period of time. What do you have to say about that?
Yeah, I mean, so if you've read the article, you'll know that I'm a person who has probably before moving to Canada not even used credit cards, because primarily in India it's a very kind of money driven market. So the plastic money arrival is kind of has been around, but it's not really got a very high adoption rate. So that said, when I moved to Canada, that was something that I was definitely kind of intrigued by, as well as something that was new to me in terms of actually like going about and building a credit score. And that's how probably like a credit card is also important, because by actually building your expenses there, you are building a good credit score, which felt counterintuitive in a way, but that's how it is, and that's how it's kind of engineered. So what I did see was in terms of your kind of risk capacity, in terms of the credit limit that you have, and how that also kind of plays up in terms of how fast or how slow you can build your credit score. A lot of people have the misconception that if you have, let's say, a credit limit of $2,000 on your credit card, if you keep maxing it out on a monthly basis, you will be rewarded a higher credit limit, whereas that's not the case, because the bank will see it in a way, or whichever financial institution that you are dealing with, they will see that you aren't very good at actually utilizing the credit, because the perfect way of actual credit utilization and improving your credit score is only utilizing about 30% of your credit limit. And that gives a positive sign to the financial institute that, and of course, like always paying your bills on time as well, because the other thing that I also see here is a lot of people either pay it in like parts. So they might just pay, let's say 40%, 30% of their bill amount on a monthly basis. And that could be more of a strategy versus like not having the funds to actually pay, but that's secondary. But what I have seen in terms of my personal experience is paying bills on time, utilizing only about 30% or less. Like in my case, I utilized just about 10-15% of a credit limit of 5,000, and that's really kind of enabled me to like go from probably a credit score of 650 odd to sitting at close to 820. So yeah, and it's only going up because you also have like a mortgage going on and you have your credit card as well. So there's also like the diversification of your credit that you can look at as opportunity for improving your credit score. So personally, like being single, so I don't have a lot of requirement for multiple credit cards because all of my kind of expenses are from solo one credit card, and I just have like a mortgage going on. So those are the only two kind of instruments or kind of vehicles that I have as credit oriented kind of sources. But I mean, yeah, if you do kind of art and science of how to kind of balance out credit, so probably you can have at least 2 credit cards just to diversify in terms of how you expense those, and that will also kind of enable you to get a better credit score faster. But I mean, the principles stay the same, like try and utilize only 30% of the credit limit and pay your bills on time.
Yeah, very good points. I had a chance to discuss about this credit scores with Manraj. She is the financial advisor for Credit Counseling. It's a non-profit organization. So they come across people that are going bankrupt because they, it's easy to get credit cards here in Canada. Like, you come in, you go to a bank, they're like, oh, here is your card. And, you take that and you utilize and max up, and then you don't know how to pay it back. And then the job market is unstable. Unfortunately, if you're getting laid off, then you're getting stuck at some point, right? So they deal with people like this, and they provide advice, and they deal with banks, and they assist people to get out of that debt. So it's kind of a great thing for newcomers or anybody here in Canada to understand that credit score is very important. For some banking and finance jobs or institutions like Credit Counseling, they always check their credit score for employees before they hire. So if you do not have a good credit score, you probably would not get hired. Even for cashier positions with Eurona, they ask for credit scores and they check it independently. So it's a good idea to improve your credit score and build up. And especially if you're trying to buy your first house. At that time, definitely this is one thing that the bank is going to assess. And I understand that you bought a home recently. So what was that home buyer process like?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that was probably my biggest challenge out here in Canada. Not so much adjusting to the climate or not so much kind of figuring out the job market, but the real estate industry is pretty crazy and a lot more volatile than probably even like the stock market. So yeah, I mean, it's been 2 years now that I bought this condo. I mean, even though it's a 1-bed, and the only thing that I found valuable was in terms of renting out versus buying. Like you also need to do like the cost analysis in terms of what kind of pros and cons you have with that. I saw a lot of pros with buying a home versus renting, so that was the reason why I ended up buying one. But the process itself is actually very streamlined, but it's just a lot of dependencies. Like, so firstly, of course, you start off with understanding your appetite. So it's best to kind of start off with getting a pre-approval, and that is where you will understand in terms of what can be your ideal budget. What makes it difficult now is beginning 1st June. So there is a new stress test that has been employed, which primarily I think it caters to, again, like putting stricter restrictions on mortgage approvals, as well as having a control on the interest rates as well, which had probably dipped to the lowest ever at close to about 1% by most of the financial institutions. So yeah, I mean, the first stage is that in terms of getting a pre-approval. Second would be understanding what is it that you want to buy, whether it's a condo, whether it's a semi-detached, attached, or detached, and like even condo townhouses. So those are again something that you need to do a little research on in terms of understanding what works best for you, in terms of probably thinking at least 5 years down the line, so that you are investing for that long. And then of course, like from what I have seen from people around, everybody like moves up in terms of their investments, and once you're closer to retirement, then you kind of start downsizing. So with that as an approach, so you decide what you want to go for first, and then the other aspect while you are figuring that thing out is also like the region that you want to invest in. So of course, like Toronto is becoming much more and more unaffordable, so there are so many reports on that, but probably places that are gaining favor because of this now is like closer to the outskirts, so like places like Oakville, places like Hamilton, or even Etobicoke and further down. But yeah, I mean, so once you have that location locked down, then it's about involving a real estate professional to kind of help you out with actually going and doing visits. And once you kind of like a place, then you can either do two things. One is either you make an offer, and but prior to the offer, if you so there was this thing that I actually realized, and was also one of the factors why I managed to get this condo, because so there are these bidding wars that happen, and generally in bidding wars, the kind of bidder who has a clear offer, that is what I heard. So clear offer is basically with no conditions in the offer, which can be let's say somebody puts on an offer but has conditions like there should be a proper status certificate, or home inspection, or like any other kind of aspects that they put as conditions. Even sometimes mortgage approvals are part of conditions. So in my case, what I ended up doing was when I finalized this condo, I took the initiative of getting the status checked, getting a home inspection done, and also of course I had like the pre-approval in place, so I could put forth a clear offer without any conditions. And that is why, even though I got outbid by close to about 15-20 grants, I still managed to win the bid, because I had a clear offer and the seller wanted to sell faster. So I mean, yeah, it's a big play of luck as well in terms of how things play out. But in terms of the process, that's how it is. And I mean, yeah, once you have the offer approved, then you have to also make arrangements for the closing period. So the closing period is where you need to have like cash in hand, because those are things that need to be dealt with on a more like without mortgage approvals. It's more like you are directly creating a draft or a check and paying off your lawyer, who then coordinates with the other party's lawyer, and then yeah, you become a homeowner.
Congratulations. But yeah, you said about luck. I would also say you were very proactive. You were all looking for a lot of information, doing your research right, and getting things done. I think that played a big role in whatever you just said. Yes, luck is there, but you have to do the work. Yeah, great. And you are an expert with TFSA and RRSPs. I know anybody that gets a job, they always think about investments. So what is your idea, and what would be your advice on people that are trying to invest in Canada?
Yeah, I mean, again, like this was more of a personal discovery journey, because even back home in India, I was the last person to look at finances or accounts. Even though I did a bachelor's in commerce, so it had given me an understanding of how balance sheets work and stuff. But yeah, I mean, looking at investment options here, and also how you can actually grow your funds, was pretty intriguing, and again, like something that I did my own research and studies on. And I mean, yeah, like you rightly pointed out, so the two most popular investment vehicles here are TFSAs and RRSPs. And a lot of people, especially immigrants, like are very hesitant in terms of getting started with either of these accounts. because it's just about probably lack of understanding or probably lack of confidence in terms of how to go about investing in those. What I would say is think of investing in either of these based on your kind of salary brackets. And that's just my kind of understanding and inference of why I say that. So I would say if you are between or under, let's say 70,000 annual, and this is for an individual, of course, not a household. So if you're an individual and like earning less than 70, I would say you start off with TFSAs, primarily because it is a lot more flexible. You can make withdrawals anytime that you want. And unless, of course, if you have any intentions of buying a home in, let's say, 2 years, then you can actually start off with RRSPs, because you have the advantage of first-time home buyers with RRSPs. And so there is, I think, an amount of close to about 30,000 that you can withdraw for your first home. But I would definitely recommend checking it up on canada.ca. That's the best place to kind of get all these information. And unless and until you are planning to buy a home immediately, I would say start off with TFSAs. And once you are continually maxing out TFSAs, then probably start investing towards RRSP. But if you are already making upwards of 70,000-80,000, I would imagine that you can actually invest in both RRSPs and TFSAs. And just given that RRSPs, think of it as tax sheltered, whereas TFSA is tax free. So, and the way that you also look at investment options between both of these kind of instruments is TFSAs. Personally, I would recommend going after like high growth, because anything that the funds in TFSA grows is tax free, and that's the fun part about TFSA. And even though it's named as a tax-free savings account, a lot of individuals don't look at it as a potential opportunity for investments. And it's actually like the best place to start investments in more high growth oriented kind of vehicles. So it could be in the equity market, it could be through ETFs, mutual funds, whatever it be. And on RRSP, I would imagine look at it as the best option to actually invest in the US market, because there is a treaty in place between Canada and US where you don't end up paying any kind of additional taxes on the dividends growth that you have there as well. So whereas that is taxable in TFSA, but I have written a very detailed article on this. Probably that is something that you can also reference and help the viewers to probably reference later on.
Yeah, but I will put that on the links on the description so that people can read it.
Yeah. And I would definitely encourage people to definitely explore TFSAs to begin with, and think of RRSPs as long-term. And both are long-term investments, but you can always kind of dig into your TFSAs for emergencies, and you also have the opportunity to refill it the following financial year. So that's the advantage of TFSAs.
Mm-hmm. So every year you will get a certain limit. So if you are surpassing that limit, probably that's not a good idea. So you have to stay within the limit. With RRSP, it's about 18% of your last financial year's income. That's what you can invest this year. So I had a case where on my first year, I had accidentally put in a lot more contribution into RRSP than the limit. And then I had to deal with a lot of issues after. I had to call the CM, get it fixed. It took a year after to calling back and forth and fix it and pay a penalty for that with interest, and that was not a good experience. I didn't know about it at that time, but I invested. So please know about it. To do your research before you're investing. Every year they might change these limits or the way they are doing things. So based on what they are putting in their website, you got to learn about it and then invest. And some employers, they would contribute to RRSP as well.
Yeah.
My first employer, they had like a 3% contribution. Some employers contribute up to like 12% contribution. So it's like, if I'm putting $100, they are putting like, $100. It is like, equal contribution. So sometimes you are going to make a lot of money long-term than just, not investing into RRSP. So I think RRSP and TFSA, both these are great investment tools for anyone to explore.
True.
Yeah.
And the other thing is you can actually have multiple accounts as well for both TFSA and RRSP. All that you need to be mindful of is kind of keeping track of not crossing the limit on either of the accounts. And that's where like things get tricky. So but yeah, like Jaya mentioned, in the instance where your organization actually helps you with an RRSP contribution, there would be instances where you have your own RRSP as well. So that is where it gets tricky. But like even on my personal record, I have like 2 TFSAs, 2 RRSPs, and use them in different manners because I like to kind of always put my eggs in multiple baskets than one basket. So, but yeah, that's again like a approach that you can take.
Mm-hmm. So the amount that you're putting into TFSA, it's already like you've paid tax on it. It's like after tax amount. So it's not, when you withdraw it, it's not going to get taxed. But RRSP, it is like, when you contribute that amount, it's not taxed at that time. But when you withdraw, it's gonna be taxable. So you have to be careful with that as well. Okay, yeah. Good information. So if anyone would like to contact you, what would be the best way to reach out to you?
I guess, yeah, we touched upon it even initially. So LinkedIn is probably the best platform to reach out and stay connected. And you can feel free to drop a note, get connected. And I'll also request Jaya to drop a Calendly link where if you feel to connect over a video call for 15 minutes, just kind of have a strategic conversation. It could be professional, it could be personal. Happy to do that as well.
Sure, I'll do that. Okay, so that's about it. I hope our viewers got a lot of information today. It was a very useful session. That's what I feel about this. Anybody that is trying to move to Canada, anybody that's like, newcomer here, or anybody that's been here for quite some time would have a lot of information that they could use. So thank you so much. It's a great conversation, and I'm glad that you accepted my request and come in and participated in this chat show. Thank you so much.
Yeah, appreciate the time, and thank you for inviting me.
No worries. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you everyone for watching. If you like such content, please like, share, and comment on this video, and do not forget to subscribe to my channel. Once again, thank you everyone. See you next time. Bye-bye.